Hey, this is WWE Hall of Famer and Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer from the Legion of Doom Road Warrior Animal. And I'm getting ready to do a shoot interview on Hannibal TV. Check it out. Oh, what a rush.
So we'll just jump right into it. You were always billed from Chicago. Where were you actually born originally?
I was actually born in Philadelphia, city of brotherly love.
What was your young life like?
You know, I was a lot with me. It was a shoot. I was really an inner city kid from Philadelphia. The very first Rocky movie is the neighborhood I grew up in for the first 7-8 years of my life. And then I moved to another inner city part of Philadelphia that wasn't as much gang related. But my dad at a young age saw that I was going to be around 12, 13, that I was headed down the wrong path. And he says, I need to get my kids and my family out of here. And then that's when we actually moved down to Florida when I was about 14 years old.
What's the age difference between you and your brother, John?
John's 2 years younger than me.
Okay.
Although everybody thinks he's older than I am, because he looks older than me. But I guess, hey, you work full-time in a WWE office, I'm doing it to you, you know?
When did they first start noticing, your parents, that you were going to be a high-performance athlete?
You know, my dad, who had just passed away a month ago, got drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Phillies. Was a great baseball player for LaSalle College in Pennsylvania. And so I played baseball. So I actually thought, you know, I got letters from the Cincinnati Reds when I was a junior in high school and stuff. I thought I was going to be a baseball player. And then my junior year in high school, I discovered weights. And I started working out, and I started putting on, like, for my junior and senior year, I put on like 25 pounds of good weight. And then football became my thing. And then I was a decent football player. You know, I was a junior college All-American. I got myself in trouble a little bit in high school. Actually, I got in trouble for tipping over a Volkswagen in high school. And so, you know, my D1 offers went down the tubes. My dad said, you're going to this Lutheran college. Well, I went to a Lutheran college. It was coached by a guy that a lot of Canadian fans will know, Dave Scrine. Dave Scrine coached the British Columbia Lions 2 Grey Cups. Okay. Retired from coaching because he had a heart issue, then came and coached at my junior college. And then he and a guy named Art Meadowcroft, who played for the Jets, the New York Jets, and then Art Meadowcroft, who played for the Bears, were my coaches in junior college. So actually, my junior college experience was like being at a 4-year school. So I did good, but then lo and behold came my son Joe out of nowhere. So there went the football career. But, you know, I think my dad knew at a young age that I was going to be an athlete, but nobody knows that you're going to end up doing what Hawk and I did in wrestling. I mean, that just was by fate.
And at what point did you move to Minnesota?
My dad worked for Hannibal, right? So every time he moved from Philly to Florida and Florida to Minneapolis was a job improvement for him. And he was actually vice president of labor relations for Honeywell Incorporated. And so we moved right outside of Minneapolis. I think I moved there in like 1976. It was right at the end in May of my sophomore year in high school. You know, and I was living in Tampa at the time, and I was actually playing varsity football in Florida. Then you go to Minnesota, where, you know, nobody leaves Minnesota. And once you're born in Minnesota, and you're a Minnesotan, because they're all Swedes and Norwegians, they stay there forever. So for me to come in as a new kid into the fold was pretty rough, man. I had a hard time. Luckily, I went in there, and right away I was the strongest kid in school, which gave me kind of carte blanche that, okay, this kid must have something, you know, so it wasn't as hard as it should have been, but it wasn't a fun time, man. I remember walking over to school and kids throwing water balloons at me and stuff from cars and stuff like that, you know, so.
At what point did you start bouncing?
Started bouncing right when I was, I think, 18 or 19. Which the legal age to even work at a bar was 21, but I was already a big kid at 19. I was 275 pounds, and I was powerlifting at the time, so I started bouncing. I started bouncing at a bar called Thumpers. I actually worked at Thumpers with a guy you may know in wrestling. He didn't last very long. His name was Vladimir Pietrov. He was tagging up, they billed him as being Nikita Koloff's cousin. It was Ivan, Nikita, and Petrov, right? Real name's Al Blake. And I actually worked at Fumpers with Al Blake. And it was only like 2 guys on a night. And a band like Both Barrels band would be playing, and who loved Both Barrels band at the time, and Jigs Lee was the lead guitarist, was Hulk Hogan.
Right.
And Hogan would come in and play the bass. And I would stand in front of the stage while Hogan was playing the bass. I was only like an 18-year-old kid. And Hogan had no idea who I was. Hogan don't even remember.
Because he was in AWA.
He was in AWA, wrestling Nick Bockwinkel at the time, man. Hogan was just getting his stardom going big, so it was pretty cool. How things folded. Man, who would have thought 25 years later, I'm press slamming Hulk Hogan in Japan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How crazy life works, right?
How was he as a musician?
Hulk could play a pretty mean bass. He was a good bass guitarist. He could play guitar pretty well.
And at what point did you meet Hawk for the first time?
I met Hawk, I was about 18 years old and working out at the gym, and I'm doing inclines, and got for back then it was heavyweight, like 315 on there, and we're doing reps and inclines. And all of a sudden, we all knew each other. All the guys that bounced knew each other. And we always heard Hegstrand this, Hegstrand that, and Laurinaitis this, or Scott and Norton worked with us too. And you would hear that, and Ravishing Rick Rude. And then all of a sudden I'm doing a bench press, and all of a sudden I hear, boom, he slaps me in the chest in the middle of my set. He goes, Laurinaitis, you ain't right. You shouldn't be doing that. You're doing more weight than me as a young kid, right? And from then on, we became buddies. He would call me up and say, listen, man, I need you to fill in for me to bounce. And I would go down and bounce at this, let's just say it was a gentleman's club. And I'd fill in for him and bounce there. And Norton and I and Hawk would do rotation, and bouncing there. And then we became friends. And then one time we were at a bar called Grandma B's. We were at Grandma B's now. You got to picture this. One night you had Smash the Demolition, Scott Norton, who was a World Arm Wrestling Champion, Hawk, myself, Ravishing Rick Rude, and who else came in? And John Norton Berserker. We all bounced the same night. And then we had other guys coming in there like Vladimir Pietrov and Nikita Koloff, and who else am I missing here? I think that's about it. But you had some of the biggest guys that made it in wrestling all worked at the same bar. Pretty crazy.
You wouldn't have to worry about too many problems.
Well, there was never an issue in our bar. And it was pretty serious because we were downtown Minneapolis, so we had guys that wore bike colors. That we had to say, hey, man, no colors in the bar tonight. Can't have colors in there. And trying to tell a group of bikers to take off their jackets or leathers is not an easy thing.
Yeah.
But we took care of them respectfully. We went and put them in the office. If there was ever an issue, I swear, there was a couple times, we would have a guy hanging up on the ankle and saying, man, the jacket has got to come off, and it would come off.
Yeah. What point in time did you start actually wanting to get into the wrestling business? Were you always a fan growing up?
I wasn't, in Philadelphia, sometimes my dad and mom would let me watch wrestling, and I was a real big fan. I loved Bruno Sammartino. Right, Bruno. I watched Bruno wrestle a bunch of times, and then I kind of got away from it. And then in Minnesota, one time I was working. My mom bought me a membership at this place called The Gym. Right, my first membership. He bought me first at Ventura's Gym, Jesse Blotty Ventura's Gym. Now when that one was done, the gym opened up because the guys were bouncing. You got to come try the gym. So I went in there and I'm working out, and again. In comes Hulk Hogan and a guy named Dizzy Ed Boulder, who was Brutus Beefcake. Back then, they were both all jacked up and huge, and I looked over at Hogan and I said, holy God, look at the size of that guy, man. And I'm watching him work out, and I'm going, okay. And I said, who's this guy? I'd never seen him before. That's Hulk Hogan. He's wrestling Nick Bockwinkel. So I went to the St. Paul Civic Center that night and sold out 20,000 people. And I said, this is pretty impressive. Then at the same bar, Grandma B's, Ed Sharkey was the bartender there. And Ed Sharkey had trained Jesse the Body Ventura of how to wrestle, right? And I knew Paul Ellering because Paul Ellering was a junior national champion powerlifter. And so I knew Paul from the powerlifting ranks.
Just you mentioned you trained at Jesse's gym, Eddie trained Jesse. Did you know Jesse at all in those early days?
You know, I didn't know Jesse at all that well. A lot of guys that I played junior college ball with worked out at Jesse's gym and knew Jesse from that side because he was from the other side of Minneapolis. And I knew of Jesse, and then my mom bought me my first membership because there was only 2 kids in my high school that worked out. Me and this guy named Gary Tunsky, who ended up going on to be Mr. Universe. And so we went to Jesse's to buy the gym together. We drove an extra 20 miles just to work out. It was the only gym we knew. Unless you wanted to go to a Prissy Sports and Health Club, and that just wasn't me back then, right? So that's where I met Ed Sharkey, who trained Ventura, was working at Grandma B's, and said, hey guys, I'm going to do a wrestling camp. You guys interested? And at the beginning I said, nah, man, I'm not going to do that crap. Come on, you know? And I'm trying to find, I got a son to support, I'm trying to find a real job. And so at that time, I was getting ready to try out. The USFL contacted me, United States Football League, and I was going to do a tryout for trying to get on some team with the USFL. I was hoping the New Jersey Generals with Herschel Walker and everybody else. So I'm training, trying out, and I figured, well, what do I got to lose? I'll go through wrestling camp at the same time. All the pummeling and stuff would be good wind for me, right? It's an anaerobic for me to do. So I'll do the pummeling, and I said, if it works out, it works out. Well, about a month before the tryout, Rick Rude and I and Hawk were walking to go eat at this place called the Jolly Troll Smorgasbord. We always ate a smorgasbord, because we were poor. It was cheap and we get a lot of food, right? The phone's ringing. Now, at the time, Rick Rude had a lot of babes, man. He had a lot of girlfriends. Rude was a good-looking guy, Tom Selleck look-alike, right? Phone's ringing. We said, Rude, let it go, man. It's just some girl calling you. Let it go. No, you never know. And Hawk and I kept walking. It was Ole Anderson. He owned Georgia Championship Wrestling. He says, hey, I want to bring you, Joe, and Mike down to Georgia Championship Wrestling. What? So Rude comes out and goes, hey, guess what? We got to go down to Georgia Friday. It was Tuesday. And rest is history, man. That's how we started.
And out of all those guys that you train with, they're all known as pretty tough guys, including you. Who would say, other than yourself, would have been the toughest out of that?
Well, I think the guy that was the most surprising was Scott Norton.
Okay.
Because he was so big but so fast for a 370-pound guy, man. He ran literally like a 4.840.
Yeah.
At 370, that's pretty impressive. And he was so explosive. He was like a 700-pound bencher and stuff, So he probably was the hardest hitting guy.
For Rick Rude, there's been rumors in recent years that he actually overdosed on purpose. Do you believe there's any truth to that?
I've known Rude since high school, man, and he, God, you know what? That wouldn't surprise me. I don't think that is what happened, but I knew Rude had, I think, a little bit of a depression problem. And for the way he looked, he was always ripped up and looked good. He actually had a little bit of a self-conscious issue. You know what I mean? He always was wondering how he looked and how he was. So that comment really doesn't surprise me. Now, I know for a fact, I know Rude really well. Yeah, he liked to smoke a lot, right? But he was a Percocet guy and a Percodan guy. I knew that for sure. I think that was one of the drugs he OD'd on. I never read the toxicology, so I don't know exactly what he died from. But, he and I bounced at a place called Georgia and Philly together, some Greek place. And we got to talking a lot. And I can see that tendency, though, what you're talking about. I can see that could be a possibility, but I really can't say for sure, man,
Were you friendly with him still in later years?
We were friends up until he died. I went to his funeral when it happened, you put him in a mausoleum, it was a shame to see a guy that young pass away, you know what I mean?
So did you already have the Road Warriors gimmick in mind when you went to Georgia?
No, we went down there and when we went in the hotel room with Bill Watts and Ole Anderson. He says, we're going to call you guys for the world. Actually, the way it started, here's the way it started for sure. I went down there with Rick Rude first in the very beginning, okay? Hawk actually went and worked for a guy named Al Tomko up in Canada, right?
Okay.
And when Rude and I went down there, they called me the Road Warrior by myself. But there was a big buyout going on with this guy named Jim Hurd, right? Jim Hurd was trying to buy out Georgia Championship Wrestling, and there's a big feud going on. So Ole Anderson didn't want me involved in all that crap, so he sent me to Jim Crockett Promotions in North Carolina. He'll send you there for a month and bring you back. Well, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months go by. Right now it's Christmas time, and I was literally wrestling 9 times a week, twice Saturday, twice Sunday, and making $150 total. I was starving. I had child support to pay, and I couldn't do it. And I said, Mr. Crockett, it's Christmas time now. I said, listen, man, I can't live on this kind of money. He goes, Joe, I don't have a spot for you. You know, he goes, you got to do what you got to do. I said, okay, well, I quit. Thank you very much. And I left. Man, I went back, and I F'd Ole Anderson like crazy. I told Ole Anderson on the phone, I said, I'm going to kill you. And I was going to beat the dog shit out of him. I was so pissed off. I mean, he ruined my life. I left home, I had a job, I was making money. You know, I was bouncing 2 different places, making pretty decent money, making more than $150 a week. Like I was making more than that in a night, just bouncing, right? So, you know, I get into going, and then I told Ole, after I told him I was going to kill him, I got back in the gym. Now, I went from 275 pounds in Charlotte to 225. I lived on a bag of pretzel sticks and a half a gallon of milk a week. And if it wasn't for Sergeant Slaughter, another Minnesota guy, buying me a Burger King hamburger once in a while, I would have had no protein, man. I burnt 50 pounds of muscle that I worked on all my, hard in the gym for about 7 years to build, right? So I get home, and I get bulking back up. I was powerlifting, now I'm 295. So Ole comes back in town, doesn't tell me, sees me up with Eddie Sharkey. Eddie Sharkey gives him this picture, and he goes, oh, where'd you get that picture of Joe? And Eddie goes, that's not Joe, that's Mike. Because really? I'm going to make them my road warriors. So then Ole called me up, apologized, and brought us both down. That's how the Road Warriors name got started. It was kind of cool because the very first day we walked in Georgia Championship Wrestling TV, they gave Hawk and I the belts. Now, we got the belts because Arn Anderson and Matt Bourne were tag team champions. Matt Bourne at that time, I don't know if it was true or not, but I got arrested for statutory rape. So they had to put the belts on somebody, so they put them on us, which was good for us because we were different. We didn't know how to wrestle for sure, and we were like street ballers, right? But we sat down with Bill Watts and Ole Anderson in a hotel room, and I'll never forget it, man, in Haydenville, Georgia, at a Ramada Inn, and we're sitting there talking, and at the time, we used to shave our head in the summer, but it got hot anyway. We were just crazy in Minnesota. We'd leave the hair grow all year long and then shave it bald in the summer, right? We're sitting there, and we're looking at Bill Watts and Ole Anderson, and they said, well, what can we do with you guys that's different? And Hawk goes, well, what if Animal has a mohawk and I have a double mohawk, so when it looks like we bend over, boom, our heads plug into each other. And they looked at us and they said, you guys, you are off your frickin' rocker nuts. Yeah. And then Bill Watts came up with the idea, well, let's try, since the Road Warrior movie's hot, let's try some face paint, like the heel had in the movie, the red mohawk with the face paint, because you guys are heels. So, okay. So that's how the birth of that paint came in. And over time, we grew and we changed the paint that fit our personality like the way it is today,
Why was everyone so afraid to wrestle you in those days?
Because we beat them up. Guys were afraid to wrestle. Listen, Ole Anderson brought all the guys in the TV. In our business, there's TV guys, right? TV job guys, we call them. And Ole said to those guys, listen, I'm going to pay you guys double, but I'm telling you right now, these guys are going to be rough. And we weren't rough on purpose, we were just green.
Right.
We didn't know what was going on until after about the first 6 months. You can't help but to learn when you're with a Tommy Rich, a Stan Hansen, a Jerry Briscoe, a Jack Briscoe, a Terry Funk, a Dory Funk, Harley Race, and Ric Flair. You're wrestling some of the smoothest, best wrestlers in our business at that time, right? And how could you not learn how to wrestle? And we learned. We were with those guys every night. Man, they would grab us by the ear after a match and get over here. You punch that wall till your knuckles don't bleed, man. We're tired of you hurting us. until we finally learned the craft of our business, right? That a lot of guys don't like to talk about. Yeah, but those poor job guys were done. There were sometimes the guys would look on the list, and when they would see their name against us on the Road Warriors, some guys would literally grab their bag and leave the room.
How did Ric Flair treat you guys in those days?
You know, here is a tricky story with Ric Flair. Ric Flair was a really good friend of ours, man. I love Ric Flair, man. One of the most generous guys you ever meet is exactly the way you see him. Woo! Where's the kamikazes? That's Ric Flair. That's him all day. I remember walking into a bar with Ric Flair and he said, "Bartender, give me 30 kamikazes, 15 for my friend Animal here and 15 for me." Really good guy. But when it came down to contract time with Jim Crockett Promotions, you know, Hawk and I were the first guys to have one of the really big contracts in wrestling, guaranteed money. And I heard rumors, I didn't know for sure, rumblings that Rick didn't like it and really barked at Jimmy Crockett for giving us one. But at that time, what are you going to do? We go to WWF, NWA's dead. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it would be dead because we were wrestling main events every night for the NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions. So that part about it bothered us, but it never came to front where Rick and I ever talked about it. I mean, even after that, I would bring home toys for his kids from Japan. Two of his kids, David, who wrestled, lived in Minnesota, and Megan, his daughter, lived in Minnesota with his ex-wife. I would bring Rick toys home for his kids at Christmas, build the toys for him that Rick couldn't do, and I would do that kind of stuff for him. So we became good buddies.
What's the craziest thing you witnessed him doing when he was...
With Flair?
Yeah.
I'll give you a good Flair story, right? You'll love this. We're in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, I'm not a partier, right? I was never a big drinker, partier. I left that to my partner, Hawk. Hawk partied enough for both of us. My wife could tell you that. She knew Hawk better than I did. Party for both of us, right? So one time we're in Vegas. Now with the time difference, I think we wrestled in San Francisco, hopped on the private plane that Crockett had, went to Vegas, got there late. I'm eating and I go to bed. Well, I knew Flair and those guys were out partying with Marilyn Chambers. Now, you know Marilyn Chambers, she's very famous in the adult world films, right? And some other people, right? And at the time, I think Ric Flair was in between marriages, one of his 6 marriages, I don't know which one it was, marriage number 3, number 4. My door, someone knocks on my door at 5 o'clock in the morning. I didn't get to bed until 4 o'clock. I got to bed about an hour's sleep. And you know, I opened the door, I looked at the people, I hear, Hannibal, it's Nate. I'm going, what do you want, Flair? And I see the fur coat, and I go, he goes, I got you to know you got to see this. You ain't gonna believe this. And I said, what? And I'm naked, and I open up the door, and I said, what? Because I'm sleeping, right? He goes, Animal, meet Bathsheba. Bathsheba, meet Animal. And it's this Indian girl. And I will tell you, she's like a 12. She had Flair's fur coat on. She opens it up, and she's stark naked underneath it, right? And I'm laughing. I told Flair, I said, what in the world am I going to do with that? And I closed the door, went back into bed, and went to sleep. That's one of Flair's nutty things that he would do. He'd show up out of the blue with a naked girl. Look at this. He always wanted. It was like he was parading off his trophy. You know. Yeah. That's exactly what it was like.
And you went to the AWA while you were wrestling in the NWA too. What was that like wrestling in Minnesota, where you grew up a little bit?
You know, it was kind of cool. Even though I was originally from Philadelphia, right? But I spent most of my high school, college, and most of my life in Minnesota. And going back, the guy, his name is Tony Benacasa, owned that bar, Grandma B's, that we bounced at. Now Tony he had an old school Excalibur car, really good classic old car, man. It was a really old, cool car. Had to be a 1950s car. It was a really old one, right? Came and picked us up at the airport. We flew in. They filmed the whole thing. We had 100 guys on Harleys escorting us down to the St. Paul Civic Center. And we were heels. Yeah. But the TV crew filmed the whole thing. Well, after that, and when the music played, back then, Black Sabbath Iron Man, when everybody heard that, and then, people went crazy. And we were heels, bad guys. But the guys in the ring that were the good guys were getting all pissed off because it was making the matches hard to do. Because everything we did, they would cheer.
Right.
Press slam, cheer. Power slam, cheer. You know, Hawk would do that side suplex thing, cheer. And it was crazy, man. So it was pretty cool going to the NWA. We were the only guys, I think, that held the AWA and NWA belts at the same time. And then when we went over to Japan, we won the international titles and defended them against the belts in the States, which made those international belts mean something big, you know. So
I saw one clip in your AWA VHS tape a long time ago of like, it seemed like there was a riot after a match with you guys against Kurt Hennig, and Larry Hennig was involved, and I think Von Rasch.
Oh yeah, I remember explicitly, man. We were in Hammond, Indiana, wrestling Kurt Hennig and Von Raschke. And at the end of the match, we beat the crap out of Von Raschke, and Hennig was tied up in the ropes, choking his neck. The Hawk had a chair, and we started beating the crap out of him with the chair on the forehead. Bam, 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 bam. When Larry Hennig came in and cleaned house on Hawk and I, and as we're leaving the ring, some biker chick like slaps me in the side of the head, and I swing my arm like to protect myself. Well, she went and faked it and said that I hit her and went to the hospital. I had an $850,000 lawsuit, but she had already had previous things from her husband beating her up, so it got thrown out of court right away, right? Well, that incident there, as we're walking out, started a riot. Not only from Kurt Hennig and Von Raschke and hitting Larry Hennig too. Now this girl thing, man, there were chairs flying. As soon as the chair hit Hawk in the back of the head, we turned into a crowd and just started swinging. And it was a riot in Hammond, Indiana. Yeah, it was crazy. All those old farmers were taking off their shirts, big old farm boys wanting to fight us. It was funny. We had to get a police escort out of there.
How did you get brought over to Japan the first time?
Vern Gagne did our first booking in Japan with All Japan Pro Wrestling with Jai Baba. Vern had a personal relationship with All Japan. We went over there, and our first match was against Ricky Choshu. I think it was Choshu and Tendu. I think it was Choshu Tendu or Choshu Jumbo. We did a 2 out of 3 falls for the All Japan Tag Team Champions and the international belts. It was pretty good, pretty brutal. I mean, Hawk and I had never wrestled more than 7 minutes. Now we're doing 2 out of 3 falls, and we're 30 minutes into the match. By the third fall, we're going, because the Japanese boys didn't mess around. But we loved Japan, though. Japan was right up our style. They were snug and stiff, and we got over, and we got a lot of respect for them, and they respected us, because they filmed us for 2 years before we went over there. They had a camera crew from Japan and Tokyo Sports follow us around all over Chicago and New York City and everywhere, do all this filming. You know, we did videos of eating raw chicken out of the garbage can and like idiots drinking the big huge bottles of Tabasco, you know, or poop would burn for a weekend drinking that, man. And then, you know, saying their Japanese beer wasn't strong, and they were the big frickin' gallon beer glasses. It was like that, yeah, so we pulled the rib on ourselves.
Is there any reason why you guys never fought Brody and Hansen?
You know, I just think the timing, it wasn't in the cards. See, there was an issue when we first went to Japan. Brody had a problem with it because he knew that we were going to get over huge in Japan, right? Just with the Japanese love, with the silver and black and painted faces and just our attitude. And Brody was the only guy over there with that kind of attitude. And he didn't like it very much, so Brody kind of stayed away. We were friends with Brody, but he just kind of stayed away. Now, we wrestled Stan and Harley Race and had a beatdown in Cleveland, Ohio with the Chicago Street Fight. It was brutal. All of us were bleeding. Stan Hansen was blind as a bat, right? Would kill everybody with that stupid cowbell of his. Bam! Slice you open, right? It was pretty bad. But yeah, Brody was a good guy. I mean, I'll never forget. You want to hear Brody's story? I'll tell you Brody's story. Jumbo Tsuruta in Japan, right, would always screw up Hawk's high spots. Everything I did with Jumbo, he was smooth as silk, easy. Every time he got in the ring with Hawk, he'd screw it up. Well, after about a 2-month tour, Hawk's pissed off. Jumbo screwed up every night for 2 months in Japan. And tradition in Japan, you gotta really be respectful. You don't kick doors, you don't break windows, you don't break glass. Well, not Road Warrior Hawk. Hawk comes out of the ring one time and kicks that door open into their locker room and their glass shatters. He goes, "Come here, you noodle-sucking son of a bee," you know? He goes, "I know you understand English. You better quit screwing up our high spots or we're really gonna have issues." Jumbo Cerrito was 6'8", 300 pounds, right? You know, and Hawk's yelling at him saying, "Hey, I can hit a lot hard throwing up than I can down," you know, to the big tall guy. And Jumbo's eyes went up, and since then, they never had an issue. We go back to the American locker room, and there's Brody by himself. What does Brody do to break the ice? He finds our face paint. Well, he puts face paint on his penis and says, "Hey, look, I got the third Road Warrior." And that broke the ice, man. The whole locker room cracked up, and from then, we were good buddies with Brody, you know.
Is that why you never worked for WWC Puerto Rico in later years after you passed?
You know, out of respect to Frank, we didn't go back to Puerto Rico for a while. I mean, because we wrestled Carlos Colon a bunch of times. He and Abdullah, we wrestled in the outdoor stadium there and sold it out and had a great match with him. I'd love to do it, but you know, out of respect to Frank, we never went back to Puerto Rico.
What was Lex Luger like to work with in NWA?
Like a robot? No, Lex is one of those guys, you know, a lot like my partner Hawk. I try to tell him, I said, "Listen, you're already a big guy. You don't have to walk around like a big guy. Let the wind out of your sails. Be smooth. Let's be easy." But Lex is a great guy, man. He's always been great to me. I've got along good with Hawk, and I've got along good with Lex. And, you know, everybody kept saying, "Oh, he's got this kind of attitude or this kind of issue." You gotta take it for what it is in this business, man. This business is made up of pretty weird personalities. And Lex was no different, and we were no different. So it all gelled together.
How was Dusty Rhodes to work with as a wrestler and a booker?
Dusty was a piece of cake. Dusty could make anybody look like $1 million. I mean, the one time, the action spot where Hawk and I jumped in the ring and I dug his eye out with a spike, I still have people 30 years later saying, "Where's that spike? You really dug his eye out. Did you really hurt him?" And really believe it, that's what happened, right? And then as a booker, he had such an ingenious mind. I mean, he made he and I and Hawk the six-man chance. People believed it. When he wrestled Flair, people believed it. Dusty can go either way, babyface or heel, and he was just a master of his craft. I had a lot of time. I miss Virgil, man. Dusty was a great guy, and you know his wife Michelle was a great person. I really, when he passed away, I saw him about a month before he died, man. It really bothered me.
Was it Dusty that came up with the idea for the scaffold matches?
Yeah, those stupid scaffold matches, man. I did like 100 of those things. We did them all in the Great American Bashes, and every 2 years in a row, every summer. And they were death-defying. I mean, seriously, if our own crew didn't put them up, we would get halfway up and they would be swaying a foot either way. And you know, when I was 320 at the time up there, and Hawk was 270, just our weight alone was too much weight for it. And then you had the Midnight Express on top of it. Yeah. It was swaying pretty good. And then when you do a lot of them, you start getting gutsy, and I started throwing drop kicks on those scaffolds. Can you imagine the sound that makes when 320 pounds comes crashing down on hollow metal? Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
And is it true that the metal actually sliced up your back?
Yeah, man, the metal, because it's a fireman's scaffold, right? People don't realize, you think it's a metal scaffolding, it's just a metal plank. It's not. It's got little hooks that stick up, because when it's wet, when the fireman got to walk on it, their boots got to be able to grab. So every time you took a bump and fell on it, on your back, you would have 100 little holes in your back. You would have to put Neosporin all over your back after the matches and really make sure it was clean, otherwise you get an infection, you know?
Do you think WWE would ever risk having a scaffold match in this day and age?
Sure they would. WWE will have a scaffold match and they make it their own invention, like it never existed.
And is it true that Powers of Pain actually quit the NWA because they found out they were supposed to have a series of scaffold matches?
The Powers of Pain were getting ready to have a bunch of scaffold matches with Hawk and I. They literally, I helped Warlord get in the wrestling business. They literally came to me and says, "Joe, what do you think?" And I'm the one that told them, I said, go to WWF, man. I said, you're gonna fall. I said, Terry, I said, I'll tell you what now. I said, Hawk and I are not falling off that scaffold. I said, Warlord, I said, you're 370 pounds. You're going to fall right through and kill everybody. Barbarian was 320 pounds. I said, you guys are too big to fall, man. I said, I would not take that fall. So I told them both to leave. I said, no hard feelings, go.
Did you laugh when you saw Jim Cornette fall off the scaffold?
Oh, bro. One of the funniest moments in wrestling.
And
I'm holding Jim Cornette. Now, listen, you got to understand the story, man. It's funny as hell. God rest his soul to Big Bubba, Boss Man, right? Boss Man and Hawk were like this. They rode together, and I rode with the guys that worked out, right? And I say that in the sense because those guys rode with the smokers.
Right.
They loved to get high.
yeah,
So they got high before the scaffold match. Boss Man was high as a kite. Nobody could tell because he had the sunglasses on, right? So I'm holding on to Cornette. I give Jim Cornette props. He's afraid of heights. Definitely afraid. He doesn't fly. Definitely afraid of heights, right? He drives everywhere or takes a train. Just hold on to the scaffold. I said, Jimmy, you got it? He goes, yeah, I got it. And I'm telling Boss Man, I yelled down, hey, you ready? Now I'm thinking, how's Big Bubba or Boss Man going to catch Cornette? If he does catch him, Cornette's like a 240-pound sack of crap. He's going to kill him. And then I told Boss Man, you ready? And I said, okay. I said, go. And Boss Man's standing like this. And it's 3 feet off and misses Cornette. And Cornette falls and hits, and both knees went pop like a big 2x4. You hear them both go. He blew out both knees in that one deal and was screaming. And Hawk and I are belly laughing on the scaffold. He's yelling, he's lying in pain. But it was so funny. You had to see Bubba stand there like this and his head up and just go like this and watch Cornette hit. It was, you had to be there and involved in the match because it was so funny. We laughed our butts off of that.
and I just brought up the Powers of Pain. Around this time, that's when the Blade Runners popped up, Demolition, Powers of Pain, lots of copycats. Were you guys offended at the time?
You know, bro, many imitators, no duplicators is our philosophy. And Ellering taught that us early. He goes, you guys be secure. First of all, you're the first of your kind. And nobody's going to be able to touch what you guys are doing together. I mean, look at it. Even Sting and Luger, they didn't have a chance as the Blade Runners. They would have never worked. Because you have to be able to do what we did. We were real guys that were from the inner city. Real guys portraying a real gimmick. You know, the things we always said in our interviews and the things that we said we did, we actually really did. We actually really did collect money for people. We actually really did do some things we really can't talk about. I mean, we actually did, and I ask God for forgiveness all the time, hurt people. But that was the nature of our life. We had bills to pay, and when you're a kid starving in the city, you got to do what you got to do, right? And so we did things like that. So that's what helped us be us. And we try to get two wrestling guys to be badasses, it doesn't always work. I mean, God, Demolition, both those guys are my friends, but even Demolition are two wrestlers trying to be tough guys. It's fine when you're in a territory when you're the only guys there, but then when you bring in the real McCoy, the people go, oh crap. And I think that's what Vince McMahon saw, and that's why Vince had us kill Demolition first match. You know, and that's why, you know, and the Blade Runners were never going to make it anyway, and down at UWF. And Jim Crockett came to me and he says, hey, what do you think this kid, Sting kid, that paints up his face down with Bill Watts? I said, Jimmy, I said, if you like him, I said, bring him in with Hawk and I, we'll make him a brothers in paint. We did that, started doing some six-mans with Sting, and then Sting went off with Flair, and then the rest is history with Sting.
Is it true at one point when you were working for Crockett that you actually lived with Jake Roberts?
I lived with, I actually, it wasn't with Crockett, it was back with Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Okay.
I lived with Jake Roberts. And boy, was it one of the most interesting 6 months of my life.
He said actually a few times that guitar shop from Honky Tonk Man caused his drug addiction that he developed in later years. Did you ever notice if he partook in anything?
Well, what was the cause of it 10 years before that? I mean, Jake, listen, since the time I knew Jake was a party guy. When we lived together, he was a party guy. Because he and Hawk would go out partying together. And I knew that for a fact. Back in 1983, they were partying together. When Jake and I were living together until Nikita came down and stayed with us. And then Jake went and lived with Hawk. Because they like to do the same thing. So, yeah, man, no, he didn't start drinking and doing all that stuff because of Honky Tonk. He may have stepped it up a gear, but he was doing stuff before.
And when Crockett Promotions turned into WCW, what are your memories of that, the differences between before and after?
Well, it instantly got bigger. Once we got on TBS and doing all that stuff, and then we started doing all these, little sound bites for different cable companies throughout Canada and the US and Puerto Rico and stuff, you can see it starting to grow. And it was fun, man. The wrestling business was fun back then. You're never ever going to see a time in the wrestling business where the guys all meshed and got together like a brotherhood. You're never going to see that. The guys today, there's too much individualism. Everybody's worried about getting their crap in instead of what's doing the best for the business. You know what I mean? The young guys, I hear them a lot today. I got to get my shine in. You got to get your shine in. Bro, don't get your shine in. Shut up and listen to the experienced guy. Then you'll make it. You know what I mean? And I think wrestling is coming back to basics now, and that's where it's got to go back to.
And we've skipped over Paul Ellering until this point. When did he get introduced, and did you guys mind having him with you as a manager?
Paul got introduced to us about 2 months, maybe 3 months into Georgia Championship Wrestling. And Hawk and I were just mauling guys in like 3 minutes. Then they put Paul with us, and only tried that because we knew Paul was a powerlifter. Everybody knew Paul was a junior national champion. Paul had blown his knee out twice in Tennessee and couldn't do anything really in the ring anymore, right? And so they said, we're going to put Paul Ellering with you guys, another Minnesota guy. Ole was originally from Minnesota, people didn't realize. Paul's from Minnesota, then Hawk and I, so he only pulled the Minnesota, congregation thing. We let Paul talk and then let Hawk and I say anything for like the first 4 months. Then we got to say one-liners. And then we would talk to Paul would tell, oh man, try this, and we would hone it a little bit until we got to where our interviews were actually people touted it as some of the best in the wrestling business. Right up there with the Rocks. We were a pretty good hard sell promo, so we could do good interviews,
And what do you think of him being back working for WWE now?
Listen, Paul's a great guy, man. Everybody asks me, what do you think? Paul's got a new team, Listen, you can't compare it to the Road Warriors because there's never going to be another Road Warriors. The wrestling business will never have another tag team in it that was main event everywhere they went. That's never going to happen. So people need to get used to that and realize that fact. Now, as far as Paul helping out the young guys, more power to the young guys. I hope they learn. I mean, I really, to be honest, haven't seen them wrestle, so I don't know how good they are or how bad they are. I get mixed reviews all the time, and the fans are blunt honest, man. That's one thing about a wrestling fan. Sometimes you may go in the front row, the IQ may not add up to 10, but they know everything with wrestling, and they're smart. Some of the smartest people I ever met are the wrestling fans. And they come up and say, well, the new team is kind of okay, but listen, the young boys are learning, and they couldn't have a better teacher than Paul. They can't call themselves street kids, because they weren't street guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You start off in the business going through camp getting paid.
Yeah.
They paid me going through camp. They signed the guys before they go to camp. But hey, more power to them getting contracts. But what you can't do And this is where, what was the other team there? The Ascension.
Yeah.
I got asked about the Ascension all the time. What killed the Ascension was they did an interview and they said, hey, if the Road Warriors were on the railroad track and we were coming down the road, we'd not go off the tracks. Well, first of all, you're dead in the water by copying a Road Warrior interview. Because nobody could do that interview better than Hawk and I. Right? So that kills you. Second thing that kills you is you're trying to badmouth us. Okay, badmouth when there's only one guy and you're badmouthing a dead guy. Okay, big tough guy, right? That then, in the eyes of the wrestling fan, kills them. You gotta, listen, in this wrestling business sometimes, there's over guys, and then there's, like we talked earlier, legendary status guys that you just gotta be left alone. Leave Hogan alone, leave Bruno Sammartino alone, leave The Rock alone, leave Stone Cold alone, you know? Leave whoever you think's the stud alone, leave the Road Warriors alone, leave Andre alone. Don't talk negative about those guys, because they did things for the wrestling business that hardly anybody will ever achieve. Selling out anywhere in the world. And unless you can do that, you shouldn't badmouth them. That's my opinion on that kind of thing.
And you worked a lot with the Skyscrapers in WCW. How did you like both versions of that team?
Danny Spivey and Sid Vicious.
Yeah.
And then it was Future Undertaker. It was Mark Callis at the time. You know, I'll tell you what, both their teams could work good. Sid was young at the time and green a little bit. Danny Spivey worked fine. I mean, they worked like the big guys like they should. And for us, it was good because it was big guys that could make us sell. Undertaker back then was phenomenal, man. It was a little ring, and he was so big, he would take one step and he's hitting the ropes. But we would do incredible drop-down leaps, frog spots for a big guy like that. He could really move. I knew he had something special, even before he was Undertaker.
And you ended up jumping to WWE. Was that due to problems with Jim Herd? Or was it
no, man, Jim Herd tried to be a tough guy. He pulled Hawk and I in the office one time. He goes, yeah, nobody likes to mix it up like I do sometimes. And we looked at him and said, Jim, are you trying to tell us you want to fight or something? You know, and Hawk did an interview one time and said, some guys should stick to wrestling and some guys should stick to making pizzas. Because Jim Herd was a former vice president of Pizza Hut. And when Hawk was digging to him, Jim Herd didn't like that. And if Jim Herd could have just let the guys run the wrestling business, it would have worked out perfect. But he didn't. And then it died.
Did you meet with Vince McMahon while you were still under contract, or was it after?
Oh, that was after Jim Herd.
What was that first meeting like?
With Vince?
Yeah.
Our first meeting with Vince McMahon was when it was WWF, was right before we signed our big contract with Jim Crockett Promotions. We went to Vince's house. He picked us up in the limo, went to the house. His Oriental chef made homemade Chinese food, chicken fried rice and stuff. And the big thing was, we had a guaranteed contract sitting on the table. We only had opportunity with Vince. And we shook his hands and thank you very much, but we gotta take the guaranteed money. But the money's sitting right here.
Yeah.
We want to take a chance. You hear horror stories. Guys trust him and then they get hosed and ripped off, and we want to take a chance. So we left, and then about a month later, he invented demolition. That's where demolition came to birth.
So when you came back to the company, was it just a matter of calling him up and say, you're ready to make the jump?
Well, we said, hey man, you trust us having us there? Paul Ellering called and said, yeah, boom, we're there on a heartbeat.
There's a couple of shoot interviews with you and Hawk on the internet just before Hawk passed where you guys seemed really upset with Vince. Did you end up obviously mending the fences since that time?
Well, you know, I'm respectful in the way that I mended fences with him, but you know what, man? What I'm really upset at, here's what I'm really upset at. When we first came into WWF, or even WWE, I told Vince in a conversation, I said, hey, what I'd love to do someday, man, is give back to this business, help these young boys learn how to be big men and learn how to wrestle, and I would love to be an agent or one of the guys behind the scenes. He shook my hand and said, we'll look into that. Sounds good, Joe. Which later on I learned was just a load of crap. And my brother tried to go there and talk to him a few times about me coming in there, even being John's assistant. And, I think my forte would be a great guy to go around the country, whether it's here or Russia or wherever, Poland or wherever, right? And look for talent and scout talent. I can scout talent. I can tell you if a guy can walk at your gut in 2 seconds, if he's going to be able to do anything in the ring. And be that kind of guy. And I would love to have had that position. But every time my brother John would come back and say, nepotism, Joe, nepotism. Vince said, you can't have nepotism, John. Although Vince has got Stephanie and Shane and his wife all involved, where's nepotism there? It's okay if you own the company, I guess. But to be John's brother, I guess, was going to be too much of a power play. What kind of power play are we going to play? I'm trying to help build the business. And all I want is security for my family at the time. Give me a contract, I'll be a dedicated employee. But they never did that.
Even to be a special agent for tag team matches? Yeah,
I could be a special agent for tag team matches, bro. I've never even done one WWE Fan Fest at WrestleMania. Can you imagine that? I'm on their website as part of the greatest tag team of all time. I'm on every video game, but I've never done a fan access.
And you brought up quickly the Demolition feud was really scrapped very fast. Was that just because it wasn't believable to fans, or do you think they could have done more with it?
I think, and I can't speak for Vince, I think in their mind, we got the real McCoy, time to squish the imposter. That's what I think they were thinking. That the fans weren't going to buy a long angle. Me, myself, I think we could have probably worked 2 years out of that thing and drug it out. Cage matches, scaffold, whatever we wanted to do, they just didn't want to do it.
And when I interviewed Demolition, they said they particularly disliked the matches when you guys were teaming with the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, yeah, who wouldn't? Yeah. Poor Demolition had to get killed by one guy pretty much. Here we are, making each other look good, and the Warrior comes in and kills everybody. And when he does his finish, he's doing our move. Press slam, drop behind, clothesline, splash. We did all that stuff. We did more Warrior got half his moves from. Was the stuff that we did. You know what I mean? So, I mean, yeah, and the Warrior in his young age, God rest his soul, man, was very, very, wild, crazy.
He was known for being a bit arrogant back there. Was he nice to you guys since?
He always Hawk and I always got along good with the Warrior. Jim was always a good guy to us, and we were good to him.
And you won the titles for from the Nasty Boys the first time. What are your memories of that in Madison Square Garden?
Even though our wrestling business is entertainment, Hawk and I won the NWA and AWA titles, right? When we got and worked that Chicago street fight in Madison Square Garden, now, one of the most historic buildings ever to wrestle in. Let me tell you, it's freaking crazy. Crazy loud, everybody. You look in the audience, and you see Lou Ferrigno, all these big, huge monsters that grew up in New York City, right? And wrestling there. When we won the titles against the Nasty Boys, it was almost like, for real, we won the titles. It was like the last of the big three belts, and we were the only team in history to win all three. We got if you watch the match back, literally a 10-minute, and we were last match, a 10-minute standing ovation with our music playing, hold up the belts and beating it. Bro, it was wild, crazy loud from bell to bell.
And how did you like wrestling them? They were pretty, they were good at taking beatings and giving beatings.
Oh, bro, they were so brutally stiff, but you're right, they were good at taking beatings and giving beatings. The Nasty Boys were a good heel tag team.
And what was the reason that you guys kind of disappeared from the WWE before WrestleMania 8?
Well, I'm sure it had to do with Hawk getting suspended, and we had to take some time off, I'm sure.
That was around the time they were testing for drugs.
They were testing for drugs, and Hawk had failed a drug test and give you a 3-month vacation.
And I guess you had to...
Because I'm his partner, I had to take a vacation too.
Was it at that point that you noticed the stuff with Hawk outside the ring?
Well, I knew Hawk partied all the time. It wasn't a secret. But over the years, it seemed to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And, I loved Hawk like a brother. And I just had a hard time watching it, man. My poor wife, before I even started dating her, was a good friend of Hawk's, and we'd go down to the hood and pick up the guys that were partying, and had to go find him at 4 o'clock in the morning because he's somewhere he shouldn't be, and so somebody wouldn't shoot him or something, and it just, it killed me inside to see Hawk go down that path, man, but, Hawk was a man's man. You couldn't tell him what to do or what he should do.
And when they brought you back, they brought Ellering in as your manager. What was the reason for bringing Ellering in at that point?
I don't know, man. They brought him in as our manager, and then they got rid of him right away. Put him with DOA. They turned on us, and that was, to me, I thought that was one of the biggest travesties and mistakes you could have done. The people were happy to see Ellering and us back together again, and all of a sudden, they beat us. That was crazy.
And what was the idea behind giving you guys Rocco?
To burn him. I hated that frickin' puppet.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? When we did SummerSlam in Wembley Stadium in London, here we are, two badasses riding motorcycles with a frickin' puppet. Ellering's got a puppet on the front, right?
Yeah.
That doll never made it back from London, I'll tell you that much.
Did you ever find out which agent came up with the idea?
No, I think Vince said he came up with that idea. At the time, our gimmick was over so strong, it didn't matter who we fought, the people think, Rick Roberts going to kill him. Natural disasters, it didn't matter if it was Hercules and Paul Roma, it didn't matter if it was the British Bulldogs, it didn't matter. The Hart Foundation was a babyface tag team at the time. We wrestled them for Coliseum Video, and we got a standing ovation.
Right.
It didn't matter. People thought we were going to kill him, and I think with the Rocco idea, A, a marketing tool for selling things, and B, to soften us up. People didn't buy us going, "Oh, Rocco, I miss you, the puppet." Come on, bro. That was so stupid. Like we're going to worship some childhood freaking item like a doll. She said, "We were true road warriors, we would have taken the arms and legs off the doll and hung them." Yeah, that was our attitude. I hated that stupid idea. A lot of things, bro, in this business that people question are kind of like a rib on the square from The Office. Oh, we're going to rib the Road Warriors and give them a doll. We're going to rib Hawk and make him a drunk guy doing the drunk angle and be all messed up. We're going to rib this, we're going to slop the Road Warriors and see how they feel. It's all a rib. It's a payback for something you did. Hawk probably got suspended, we come back, boom, they slap us. Hawk is suspended, boom, he comes back, he does a drunk angle. Stupid.
What did they say in customs when you had to search your bag and there's a doll in there?
Well, good thing, luckily, we made Ellering check in the doll, so it didn't bother Hawk and I. So we'll let the guy with the dyed beard and dyed friggin' hair have the queer-looking doll, man. It was ridiculous.
And you brought up the Hart Foundation. What was working with them like?
Great. Bret Hart's great. Jim the Animal was great. It was great chemistry. They only had one match, and they never did anything after that. And I really wish they would. I think we could have had a great program with those guys, but them and Demolition, we missed out on. I think the company missed out on a lot of big money by not doing things like that.
And we talked to Jim Neidhart yesterday, and he's pretty upset about not being in the Hall of Fame when all of his
He
friends.
should be in the Hall of Fame. He's the anvil, boy. He was the muscle for the Hart Foundation. And listen, Jim Neidhart was on the Oakland Raiders and never played a down of football in high school or college. Made the Oakland Raiders. He was a shot putter, an Olympic shot putter, and one of the biggest, strongest guys in our business, man. He's still a 600-pound bencher. He should have been in the Hall of Fame, sure. How could you put in Bret Hart and Owen? Well, Owen's not in either, is he?
No, but I think that's more to do with Owen's wife, possibly. But
but how could you put anybody in?
Davey's not in, no.
No, but how could you put Bret in and put Jim in?
And what exactly happened at that SummerSlam '92 that Hawk left the company after? Well, I guess he didn't.
Hawk, Jake Roberts, and John Norton Berserker all were going to fail the drug test. I don't know for sure, but I'm going by what Hawk told me. Back then, Jake was like this. Jake was a stir-the-pot son of a gun, bro. He told Hawk, "Oh, Animal's not on your side, bro. He's stooging you off and doing all this stuff." And I told Hawk. Hawk came apologized afterwards because we put a rift between Hawk and I. And so, you know, he goes, Joe, I know you never would be that kind of guy. I know now, you know. But back then, Hawk was all messed up on a lot of things, and it was buying everything that Jake was saying. Man, some guys in the business, bro, will feed your ego and feed you with stuff you want to do because they want to put that stiletto in your back and climb the ladder that you're climbing. Now, here we are, SummerSlam. We were the semi-main event. The main event was Bulldog against Brett. We were the tag team match. It was going to be the main event for the championships. Well, Hawk got wind from somebody that he and Jake and Nord were going to get suspended. What does he do? He starts chewing Placidos. Well, Placidos are like liquid Valium and liquid heroin all mixed together. They just mess you up for like 6 hours, I guess. I've never done one. But Hawk chewed 2 before the match. And we're sitting there on motorcycles talking to Vince McMahon, and Vince is telling us what he wants us to do, our entrance and stuff like that, to get it down right, because it's the first time, Wembley Stadium, 90,000 people, right? And Hawk's going, Vince, wait a minute here, hold on. He's all messed up, bro. And Vince is looking at me, giving me distinct face and evil eye, like, what am I going to do? He's a grown man. I can't help what he puts in his body. I don't feed him every day. You know, and we went from semi-main event to, I think, first or second match. Didn't matter, though. If you watch back, the ovation Hawk and I got, and, you know, in England, because of the rugby and the soccer, they play those big horns that go, yeah. Dun, 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 dun. And at the end, they were chanting LOD, and all 90,000 were chanting in unison. It was so loud, I couldn't hear our music playing, and I couldn't hear the motorcycles running. It was crazy loud. It was unbelievable.
And you ended up hurting your back in a match after that. I guess you were against the Beverly Brothers or something?
Yeah, but when Hawk got suspended, or quit, when Hawk quit, I honored all the bookings like a businessman should. I wasn't just going to quit with Hawk, right? So I finished up the bookings, and I had a booking in Japan, wrestled the Beverly Brothers in a 2-on-1 handicap in the Tokyo Dome. They gave me a double suplex, and I landed on my side and threw out my back, and I ended up herniating 2 discs.
So that kept you out for numerous years?
Well, that kept me out, and then, you know, like a smart guy, I had a disability policy, and I collected on that, and you had to wait a number of years collecting it while they paid you, so I was stupid to not to go back to work. But the policy that I had read that I could go back to work, so it worked out in the end, you know.
And around that time, Hawk started teaming up with, I guess, Kensuke Sasaki in New Japan.
Yeah. Kensuke is his name, and Kensuke was a young boy when we went over there for New Japan, and then, you know, the Japanese office said, hey man, my animal's hurt, do you mind helping us build this young kid up, because they wanted him to be a single champion someday. And Hawk said, sure. And Hawk asked me, and I said, I don't care, man, go do what you want. And then he went over there, became the Hellraisers, and they did pretty decent, but then Kensuke started going off on his own and became a stud, you know.
And you ended up re-signing with WCW in '93 for a bit, but you were in a non-wrestling capacity, I guess, for some of it.
There was a lot of it. I mean, I had to do tag team matches. That was my deal with them. That was my deal with my insurance. My insurance company really didn't understand that I control everything in the ring that happens in wrestling. So they said, okay, you can go back to wrestle if you wrestle tag teams.
Who were you dealing with in WCW at that time?
Who was I dealing with? That was Eric Bischoff?
Yeah.
Bischoff, I think.
And how did the company change between then and the time you left?
Well, I mean, the company grew fast. I mean, the company was growing, but I knew for Hawk and I, our life was in Japan.
Right.
You know, Japan was always there for us, so that's what we started doing, going back to Japan.
What did you think of your matches against the Steiner brothers?
I think they were good, solid matches. I mean, definitely believability, because we killed each other.
And we interviewed Scott actually once, and when we asked him who would win in a shoot between the Road Warriors and the Steiners in your prime, and said because of their amateur skills, the Steiners...
oh, bullshit. By the time they would go for a single leg, they'd be knocked out. As soon as you dive, you're punching down the back of the head. Listen, just because Hawk and I were street guys doesn't mean that I didn't do amateur wrestling when I was younger. Now, was I the level of Scotty or Rick on wrestling? Amateur wrestling wise, they would kill us, and Scotty's right. But if it's real, I'm not going to sit there and let a guy go leg dive me. I'm either going to kick him in the face or I'm going to punch him in the head. And so's Hawk. So a street fighter, any day of the week, you can see, look at UFC. A lot of guys that win are not wrestlers. You know what I mean? But some champions are, like Brock, and a few guys that have been collegiate wrestlers are good. Steiner brothers are two great guys, man. I will have nothing bad ever to say about either one of them. Two of my closest friends, I remember when they both came out of camp. Rick came out first, and we were in the AWA. Actually, we were filming TV in Winnipeg. What was it, for TSN TV, I think it was?
Okay.
And because back then the rules were you couldn't film in the United States and carry the film over. You had to have the actual film footage in Canada on their cameras. So we're doing it, and I remember pantsing Vern Gagne. And Robbie was a rookie, and at that time, bro, nobody talked back to Vern Gagne. He was like the god of the AWA and the wrestling world, Olympic wrestler, All-American in Minnesota, everything else. And he's talking, and like for half an hour, we're all waiting around doing interviews, we're really bored, and I walk up to him and I pants him and bring his pants all the way down to his ankles. Steiner lost it. They couldn't believe that someone would do that. I looked back and said, what's he gonna do, fire us? I mean,
you're so over it now.
Yeah, you couldn't win.
And how did you like your matches with Ming and Barbarian in WCW?
Great. Ming is two of the greatest guys in this world, Ming and Barbarian. Now, Ming's one of the guys you don't want to get pissed off at, on the other side. I remember Ming, one time, Ming used to wrestle in Montreal for the Rougeaus.
Right.
And I remember Hawk and I would go up there for the Rougeaus, and we were heels. And one time, we were beating the dog snot out of Jacques Rougeau and his brothers, Raymond and the other kid. I forget the other kid's name.
Armand.
We were beating up all three of them, had them all three bloody in the ring laying, and we called down Ming. Come on down, that was Ming had a big angle against the Rougeaus. Come on, Ming, let's go, kill him. And we're Hawk and I are holding each arm like this, holding Jock by the back of the hair, like this. And Ming standing there. Ming thrust kicks me and thrust kicks Hawk. Now we flew over the top rope for him, right? Now Ming is a stone cold baby face in the middle of the ring with Rougeaus. We sold out that whole summer wherever we went for the Rougeaus, just because of that. Ming was a big, impressive guy.
Did you ever see him in action in any of the bar fights?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I saw him in East St. Louis one time. Kurt Hennig, who was another guy that did this, stirring the pot, good river, did it at this place called the Oz Disco in East St. Louis, which is a place you don't want to get caught messing around in. And yeah, I saw Ming have his finger behind the guy's eye and pull his eye out and say, "You don't stop, brother, I'm going to eat this eye." And he was dead serious. He had about 10 beers in him, half lit, and the guy messed up. And Ming had this like freakish power. He may not have been a guy that benched 800 pounds, right? But he was just a freak. Like Dr. Steve Williams, same way. Just freak strong, out of the blue.
Why was your WCW run so short at that time?
We just had a disagreement in contractual stuff. We had a disagreement with Eric Bischoff, and over the years we patched it up, so I really don't get into bad mouthing or bashing Eric anymore. It's just, we just couldn't come to an agreement, that's all.
And what led to your return to the WWE in '97?
Hawken went through a bout of interferon treatments for hepatitis C, and was cured. Went to treatment centers to clean himself out, and he just wanted to prove to Vince McMahon that he was okay.
Yeah.
So that's why we went back, and
just curious, for my own knowledge, did they know he had hepatitis C before he was cured? or was that?
Yeah, no, he got tested for it, and then he went on the interferon, which is like almost like a chemotherapy type treatment, and less than 10% people get cured.
Yeah.
And he was 100% cured. They found no trace of that. Yeah, and so he started wrestling again full time. And he just wanted to show Vince he could be a total businessman, work straight and narrow, not get in trouble and everything else. And they started to, but we had a good match against him and Kane and Rob Van Dam in Philadelphia. I mean, we were on TV for a while, and we came back, and it was like we never left.
Yeah.
And people went crazy. I think we were in Baltimore and Philly.
Yeah.
And they went nuts, and I don't know what happened after that, man. They went sour.
You had a few matches with Ken Shamrock, right? When he was on your team, I guess.
Sure.
With the Heart Foundation there. What led to you walking Ken out to the ring against Kimbo in Bellator?
You know, Kenny's always been a good friend of mine, man. I actually saw him at a WrestleCon. And I saw Kenny. I said, Kenny, you're fighting again? He goes, yeah, man. I said, you look good for 50 years old, right? And he's fighting, and I go, bro, you're going to be in St. Louis. He goes, yeah. He goes, you want to get together? I said, better than that. Why don't I walk you out to the ring? And I did, and the people got a good pop on it, and it helped. It was too bad Kenny lost.
Yeah.
You know, hey, from the waist to angle there, me coming out, he loses, but hey, man, it is what it is, and I would do it again for Kenny or any of the guys like Bobby Lashley or even Brock. If they want me to walk them out, give that little pop or anything, I'll do it. I don't care.
What do you think about Brock?
I think Brock's a very underrated guy. I would have a hard time if I was a fan. Now, I love Bill Goldberg too, but as strong and as a badass as Brock is, being UFC champ and all his collegiate stuff, it's pretty hard to fathom that anybody's going to beat him the way Goldberg's going to beat him around. So I would expect a real beatdown at WrestleMania. And I think the fans would be real disappointed if Brock didn't do a real beatdown on Bill Goldberg. That's my own opinion. I don't know what's going to happen yet, but that's the way I see it. And I like to look at the business, the most successful things with the guys in the business, if you look at it like a fan, you do the right thing. We'll see what happens.
What do you think about the success that Goldberg's had since he's been back?
Good for Bill. I'm glad for Bill, man. I mean, Bill's a great guy. He's always been good to me. I have nothing bad to say about Goldberg. Nothing. I just have a hard time with Brock bellying down to anybody. It's just, bro, Brock went through a whole new level when he legitimately ripped that car door off of that Cadillac and threw it. Not very many in this world can rip a car door off a car, even if you gimmick it. He threw it about 100 yards, man. Flew in, almost hit the stands. That put Brock at, holy crap, this guy could do some damage,
You think it could have been punishment for Brock failing the MMA drug test or something like that?
They may have did that to Brock just to hand slap him, you know what I mean?
And Goldberg won the title off of this wrestler called Kevin Owens. What do you think about a guy that looks like him being like the representative of the company?
Nothing against Kevin Owens, right? But your world champion, I think, has got to be the biggest, baddest mother effer in the company. And has got to look it. That's what the company represents. The people have always loved to see these behemoths that can go and move. It's a big man's business. That's why I think that the business, because look, TV ratings Raw and SmackDown are the worst they've been in 25 years. Why? Look at your reign of world champions. People can give Cena crap all he wants, but he's the only guy that looks great. I mean, really great, like a world champ, and he's a good representative of the company. So I think your world champion should be the big representative of it.
Someone that the average person would want to fight.
Yeah, listen, Hawk and I were like a modern day Superman tag team. You know what I mean? We're like the Flash and Superman all wrapped into one. And that's what separated us around. We were real life heroes. Not trying to be heroes, we just became that because the fans liked us so much.
And Triple H has a lot of power now, obviously. What was he like to deal with in your experiences?
Well, I have never had an issue with Triple H. Paul is a great guy. I've always got along great with Paul. I've gotten along good with his wife, Stephanie. I've never had an issue. I got along good back when he was with China. He and China would take me to work out. When Hawk would be all messed up and I didn't have a car, they'd say, Adam, when you want to work out with us, I'll go work out with Triple H in China. They always treated me good. So you won't ever hear me say a bad thing about Triple H.
And what did you think about when they put Sonny as the manager of you and Hawk?
I think it was a very, very delicate situation because Sonny had issues too, and everybody knew it. And Hawk and I, besides Paul Ellering, we didn't need no other manager. And especially, nobody's going to believe that a girl is going to be able to control the Road Warriors, or Legion of Doom at the time, right? And Sonny, in Madison Square Garden one night, the first night she was with us, was walking around all sewn up, which is a muscle relaxer pill. And I told her, I said, do not get in the way of my spikes. You know, because we flip around the ring so far, and my big spikes came with a hairline scratching on the cheek. I came back after the match, and Vince McMahon says, she messed up. And I nodded yes. I'm not gonna lie, man, you can see it on tape. Everybody in the sold out 22,000 seat arena could see it. And right, boom, she was gone.
What do you think that she's now gotten to the point where she's done porn videos and stuff like that?
You know, well, she was with Chris Candido, right?
Yeah.
She was really, back then, a sweet girl with Chris. When I first met her, she was sweet. I hate to see anybody that would have to turn to that to make money, right? I actually feel sorry for her, because it's a really embarrassing crap. I mean, let's face it, really embarrassing stuff. I don't know what I would do if I ever had anybody I really knew close to my family that would ever stoop to that, man. I would try to do my best that they wouldn't have to. And she's at a point in her life now, I think she's in jail.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, she's in jail, man. She had warrant after warrant and missed court dates and stuff and still in jail, I think. Or DWI type thing or something, because she did have outstanding things.
Offenses.
Yeah, and too many offenses, they threw her in jail to make her learn, but I feel bad for anybody that's in that situation.
And China actually was reduced to doing porn too, I guess that must have been...
But what is when the girls in our business reduced to doing porn?
Yeah.
I mean, China worked so hard to be the eighth wonder of the world, like they called her, to be so different in our business, to transform her look when she was lifted heavy and did the cheekbone operations, and she looked just like her sister does. She got a twin sister. And man, I just felt bad for her, man. She must have had a real bad self-esteem problem.
Right.
It's hard for me because I love China, and then Sean Waltman was her boyfriend,
Yeah.
X-Pac, who was a good friend of mine. Never lived in Minnesota, so I felt bad, you know?
And this isn't porn, but what do you think, since the subject of what happened with Paige recently? I guess someone stole her cell phone and these videos came out.
Oh yeah, her own personal videos?
Yeah.
You know what, man? I think the person that stole those videos should be thrown in jail, bro, and locked up. Because you invaded Paige's privacy. That's her own personal stuff. Anybody that's alive should be able to film what they want, their own personal stuff. I don't care who she's doing it with or what she's doing. I heard of it. I never knew who her was with.
I guess there was two wrestlers. I didn't see the tape, but I guess it was two WWE wrestlers. One's still under contract, and another one has been released.
Who's their names?
Xavier Woods and I forget the other guy. Xavier Woods is the one that's still under contract, and another guy, I don't really watch it now, so I'm not very familiar, but It was pretty embarrassing footage, unfortunately.
Well, I imagine it is. With 2 guys on you, it must be real embarrassing. But, hey, I suppose whatever floats your boat, man. What are you going to do?
Yeah, particularly since I guess she's engaged now and maybe even married.
So it was an old video.
Yeah, and one of the guys is actually married too.
Oh, that's a shitstorm waiting to happen right there. Holy Christ.
Being involved in office stuff with WWE, how do you think
it's a new day? That gives New Day a whole new meaning.
With Puke, why was the reason that they brought Puke into the team, and what did you think about that at the time?
Darren Drozdow's bro, Puke was a great guy, first and foremost, right? He had the look to be a member of the LOD. I think that the office was getting so tired of Hawk failing drug tests, they were bringing in a backup. Without telling Hawk, they were bringing in a backup. And when they originally asked me to do that whole drunk angle.
Right.
And I refused. I said, absolutely not, bro. I said, I got a kid in high school, kid in junior high, and a kid in grade school. I'm not doing that to my kids. I'm not going to put them through that humility. I'm not going to put them with kids in class going, oh, your dad's a drunk, your dad's a drunk. Because the kids don't understand it's entertainment. They take it to heart. The true wrestling man takes it to heart. So I refused it, Hawk. Now Hawk again, coming back off a drug suspension, says, I'm going to be a businessman and tell Vince I'll do it. So Hawk steps up like a man and says, I'll do it. And I think they took advantage of that. Because now they're giving him carte blanche to do it. And Hawk did it to the extreme. He was drunk every night. Literally drunk. I didn't like the angle at all.
Did you guys choose to leave WWE on your own after that?
Yes. I didn't like it. We left on our own.
And you ended up in WCW for a while after that. Was it your brother that brought you into WCW at that time?
My brother John had stopped working for All Japan and went, he was a good friend of Dallas Page. Dallas Page got him a booking job at WCW. And then we got brought in there. And it was for a little while. And
for people that don't know, what's your brother's specialty as a booker? Because he had supposedly a talent in finishes, coming up with great.
Yeah, even Johnny's really good at finishes. Really good at finishes, the ending of a match. And John's really good with getting the whole thing to flow. Okay, kind of like an executive producer of the show. That's John's forte. I will give my brother credit. He's really good at that stuff.
And do you have any memories of that WCW run, or was it just kind of picking up a paycheck?
It was picking up a check. They had us do really things that we really didn't like to do very much, and I think we had a match there against Booker T and Sting one time, and which didn't make any sense at all. Should have been Stevie Ray and Booker T against us, bring back the Harlem Heat. We were just trying to fill matches, and the business was just not. It wasn't fun at that point. If I could explain that right, the business wasn't fun anymore.
Was Vince Russo involved in it at that time? Or was
Bro, I don't know what to say about Vince Russo, because I don't really know how much involvement he had, but I heard he had a lot of involvement in writing the storylines and stuff. And for whatever reason, either both the WWE, WWF, or Vince Russo's involvement, they never, for some reason, wanted to push us. Not that we needed a push, because we were already over. We're going to be over whether they push us or not, but if they would have pushed us, we would have been over the top Hogan stuff. I mean, and they looked foolish because the company lost out on all that money. You're probably talking hundreds of millions of dollars in merchandise. And if they would have pushed us, they would have made that.
Were you still under contract with the company when it went out of business? Or when it was sold to Vince?
Yeah, I was part of the very last video when Vince was on saying, hey, Rick Steiner, hey, Roadrunner Animal, you guys can come over here. Everybody else can leave. When Vince said that, he let Steiner and I come over. I mean, I was right a part of that.
Yeah. Did you go right away, or did you let your contract run out?
My contract, when Vince bought it, our contracts were null.
Okay.
They got null and void.
You also wrestled for Jacques with Hawk a couple times. I was on those shows younger. Jacques Rougeau in Montreal. There was very big crowds for those shows, but there was some talk that Hawk did some damage to one of the Harleys.
Oh, bro, it was the funniest story. You gotta, okay. This guy brings his, first of all, he tells us we have 2 Harleys to ride.
Yeah.
And we get there, we got 1 Harley. I said, what, I gotta ride in a freaking sidecar? They literally got a sidecar in it, bro. You remember the old Hogan's Heroes show?
Yeah.
Yeah, when the German general was driving, like Colonel Klink would drive in the French sidecar, and he had the big fat sergeant driving it, right? I said, bro, I look like stupid here. I look like, to be honest with you, like somebody's bitch sitting in the sidecar, right?
Yeah.
And now it was in a hockey arena, and they had the hockey doors where the Zamboni comes out, right? You only had one side open. And I'm looking at that thing, so I'm looking at the bike, and I'm asking Hawk, and I'm thinking to myself, is that bike gonna fit through there? Hawk now is all sobered up, and he's been drinking too. Messed up like crazy. Animal, I got a Harley. Well, yeah, you got a Harley. You bought a Harley and you left it at my house for 4 years. You didn't even ride it. Because you bought a Harley, because Hawk was living with Missy Hyatt at the time.
Yeah.
Moves down to Tampa, leaves his Harley in Minnesota with me for 4 years. I'm the one that rode the Harley, not Hawk, right? So, it was the funniest thing. Hawk goes, Animal, I'm an expert at driving motorcycles. I'll make it through there. Well, bro, he takes off and he starts going, gets about 5 miles an hour. This is a vintage collector's motorcycle. Rips the lights right off the side of the sidecar on both sides, rips the gear shift pedals, bent in now. Oh, bro, I actually climbed over the sidecar and started walking to the ring without Hawk. And Hawk comes stumbling behind me. We left the motorcycle right there, we're stuck between the door.
Yeah.
You could hear the guy taking it out, backing it out, and glass and shit dropping on the hockey rink and everything else. Oh, bro, it was so funny. And Jacques Rougeau came afterwards and says, you owe me 20, he wouldn't pay us all our money. I said, Jacques, you give me all my money now, bro. I didn't do nothing. If you're gonna dock any money, you gotta talk to Hawk, good luck. That wouldn't have lasted very long.
Yeah, so you guys got your...
This wouldn't have been a fight like the British Bulldogs and the Rougeaus. This would have been some serious stuff here, man.
Yeah.
You got payday's the payday. And then Hawk won it like, or Jock won it like $2,000 for damage to the bike. Bro, it ain't my fault the bike happened. Talk to him.
What led to Hawk's passing, and what are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Well, I was actually vacuuming my pool in Minnesota. The phone rang. Well, I thought Hawk was doing really good. And it's my buddy Bob on the phone. Bob Muller, who takes photos for George Napolitano at the time, right? There was two big magazines. This was the big one. And so, he says, hey man, I said, Bob, how you doing? He goes, you talked to Mike today? Hawk? I said, no, why? He goes, has anybody called you today? I said, no, why, man? It's Saturday, it's a day off. Why would anybody call me? He goes, Joe, Mike died last night. I said, what? Yeah, he died, bro. And I sat down on the steps of my deck, man, and I cried like a baby. I'm saying, man, not only did I lose my partner in wrestling, I lost a brother and I lost a friend. As messed up as he was, I love the guy. You know, I was a proud man to say that. Hawk and I were like glue, stuck with each other, made a lot of money together. To this day, look, 34 years later, we're still touted with today's tag teams as the #1 tag team ever in wrestling, even with the new guys. And that says something for what we did as a team, right? And man, when he died, bro, it was like someone took a stake and just drove it in the heart. It was bad, man. It was a bad time. I heard that there were some kind of medicine on the table when Hawk died. I don't know what it was. But I know that he was moving his wife. They had a condo on the beach that kept getting pelted by sand during a storm. He moved inland a little bit to a house. And he moved and he wanted to move all the heavy stuff so his wife would have to lift it, Dale. And he goes, honey, I'm going to go down and lay down for a little bit. And my back's sore, just rest for 3 hours, come get me at 3 o'clock in the morning, we'll finish. Well, Dale goes up there and wake him up at 3 o'clock, and Hawk was gone. And that was it.
So the official cause, I guess, was a heart failure or something?
They said heart failure, yeah.
Did you know that his health was...
No, man, I think his heart was worse than he was telling me. And I think that it was only a matter of time after he got diagnosed, in Australia when he had his heart problem.
Yeah.
And I saw it was a matter of time. Because once he got the green light, and the guy says, you're healthy a little bit again, he went right back to boom, A to Z.
Right.
You can't do that. Not with a bad heart.
What's your greatest memory of Hawk of all time?
Man, the greatest memory of Hawk, that's a tough one. I got a lot of funny ones. I got a lot of good serious ones. I remember Hawk during the war games being the last guy in and literally knocking out Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and Lex Luger with 3 clotheslines. Bam, 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 and all 3 later, half out. Because Hawk was waiting, 5 guys go in 2 minutes at a time, and Hawk was the last guy and had to wait like literally 30 minutes to get into the ring, and it was like a ticking time bomb. That was a pretty good one. Another one, man, the greatest moments with Hawk, man, is just the way he never had any kids of his own, but he was great with my kids. He always thought of my kids as his kids. And when my son James was in high school and was becoming a stud in football, Hawk was as proud as I was of my kids. My son Joe, and playing hockey, and my daughter Jessica, he was proud of all my kids, man.
And you went back to WWE after Hawk's passing. Was that tough to go back, or?
Yeah, man, it was tough to go back, and it was tough to go back to the Legion of Doom thing. And I really struggle with that. Do I put Heidenreich over as a member of the LOD? How do I work that in? I try to work it in that we got Heidenreich in Hawk's honor to continue the tradition. But, they didn't let me elaborate on it enough to get that point over with the fans. And, it worked. When we won the titles, we got a great reaction out of it. But then until Heidenreich had some issues, and then it all went south.
What was your memories of the title win over, I guess it was Eminem at the time?
Well, Eminem was a good, hot, girly tag team at the time, man. They reminded me a lot of the Rock and Roll Express. The girls loved them. They were good-looking kids. They could move around. They were really good. Johnny Nitro and with Joey.
Yeah, Joey Mercury
and
Melina.
Yeah, Melina was great too, man. She was a good part of the act. She was a very good manager for a girl. I mean, she's really good.
There's a lot of rumors at the time. There was something going on with Melina and Batista, even though she was dating one of the Eminem.
Yeah, I heard that, man. I heard Batista got with her during that angle they were doing. I don't know, man. Weird things have happened in wrestling, I wouldn't doubt it.
What do you think about Batista?
I like Dave. I actually knew Dave before he was all ripped up. It was Batista. He came to our place, the gym in Minnesota, and trained there for a while. And he was just a big, probably around 400 pounds, man. He was a monster. And then, Dave was always good to me, so I really got no complaints.
And were you traveling with Heidenreich during the time you were teaming with Heidenreich?
Yeah, that was kind of a bitch. I'd be there at the airport with the rental car waiting, and he wouldn't tell me he changed his flight. And, or he would miss his flight and not call, or, I found myself chasing him down a lot, and that got to be a little bit hectic for me.
Do you think if he had himself together more at the time, the team could have gone on to greater heights?
It would never have been as good as Hawk and I, but we still could have been the most over team in the company. Of course, the guy is in a bad shape, man.
Yeah, I actually feel bad for him. I asked him to explain, what happened, and he explained that it was his fault and that he was missing coming up late. And
at one time, seriously, he And I love the guy, but he got pulled over. He was actually sleeping in a rest area on the highway in New York, one of the freeways. You can't sleep in the rest area. And when the cop went to knock on the window, he was bleeding from his ears. Which means he was doing too much up his nose and his sinuses and everything, doing too much coke, right? And so, and then he got arrested for it, and then he got in trouble, and then he got suspended. We had just gotten the WWE titles at the time. And they were really trying to push that Legion of Doom thing, and then he did that.
Yeah, it screwed it up, I guess, for both of you.
Well, the bad thing for me when I did that too, Hawk had already been dead for 8 years. And I did nothing, wasn't even working out hard. I mean, I was not in the best shape. I just, I took like 4 years off and did nothing but aerobics and was trying to drop weight back down. Then they called me up and said, hey, Stephanie McMahon says, hey, you want to join us in this WWE thing? It's going to be my gig. And I said, well, Stephanie, if you're doing it, sure. If anybody else is doing that, I don't trust anybody else because they'll just want to take advantage of it. I said, I don't want to diminish what we did. I mean, he was unreliable. He was late to buildings, would come to shows late, would, have a horrible match. You can't do this stuff, man. You got to be a businessman.
Did you guys train together in the gym?
No. We never trained together. We would go to the gym at the same time, man. We never trained together, no.
And they put you with Matt Hardy teaming a couple times.
Yeah.
How did you like that?
Man, and all that stuff after Hannibal got fired was just all filler stuff.
Yeah.
And I always see the writing on the wall. I wasn't into it. And they tried to make me the Road Warrior without my face paint on, which I hated. Because this is my marquee. This is my stamp. This is me. And they felt it really didn't matter if I had face paint on or not, then why I had all the video games, when you go to make the character, you can make me with my face paint with the spider. If it's not that important. You know what I mean? So it is important. It's a trademark.
So I guess you're ultimately released. I know it's not your brother's fault because he just follows orders, but what's it like having your own brother have to tell you?
Well, man, you know what I thought it was? To be honest with you, I thought it was a dick move of the company. It was a dick move, and it was a low move. If they wanted to do that, I think the boss should have told me himself. Don't have my brother come on. My brother coming on is just another dig at us. That's the way I took it. And there's a lot of stuff that happened like that within that company. And, they weren't very, no loyalty, man. Loyalty to the wrong guys, for one. But no loyalty there. And have my old brother come and say, hey, Joe, we got to release you. I actually told my brother? I said, that's all right, I was going to quit anyway. I said, I've about had it with this shit. So I told him. I said, you change and take my paint off. And I said, that's stupid business. That's just a dig. That's stupid business to do that. Why would you take the paint off? That was Hannibal.
Yeah, it's like starting from...
Yeah, man. Stupid.
And you ended up getting inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2011. Were you happy about that?
I had mixed feelings about it because I thought it was about 10 years too late.
Right.
When you have guys passing away like Eddie Guerrero and guys that died go in the same year. Or you got a guy like Sting who's in and he still wasn't even retired.
Right.
What are you talking about? You're not going to put in the most successful tag team of all time for 10 more years? Are you kidding me? If anybody should have been put in before they retired, it should have been us. And I'm not being egotistical about it. I'm being real. Name one other tag team in the world that has sold out around the world. That has WrestleMania events everywhere around the world. I'll tell you how many. 0. And that really kind of pissed me off, to be honest with you. That and the fact of them not hiring me as an agent pissed me off. It's insulting. Me not doing WWE Fans Fest or in WrestleMania when I got 10,000 people asking me, Hannibal, why aren't you at Fan Fest? Why aren't you at WWE Fan Fest? There's a mannequin there with your spikes on. Why aren't you there? It's insulting. And it's stupid. It's stupid, egotistical, narcissistic business. It doesn't make sense.
Who do you think has something against you there now?
Oh, friggin' Vince won. Because everything in that company runs through Vince McMahon. No matter if Hunter's running the show, it runs final say through Vince. If they get a TV all written up and they want to change, Vince will come in the ninth inning and say, I don't like it, change it. And you got to scramble and do something different. All comes from Vince. See, one time coming back from England, Hawk threatened to kill Vince and his family. And there was a little bit of issues there. Our first contract, we did it on a handshake, and he knew Vince with the kind of money we were expecting. And when you're expecting a certain amount of money, and you're making $100,000 less, then the next year $100,000 less, then the third year is be $150,000 less, and we're no less over, we're even more over now, and we're making less money, there's a problem. And Hawk had a real issue with that. That's what drove Hawk and pissed Hawk off, when Hawk finally said, F it, I'm gonna do what I wanna do. I started really partying and doing what he wanted to do. That's what drove Hawk to that. And I hope those guys feel good that drove him to that. Listen, a man's responsible for his own actions, I get that, but it was that situation that drove Hawk to be the way he was.
Was Hawk ever actually part of a motorcycle gang, or did he just...
No, bro, neither one of us were.
Yeah. And what do you think about a lot of people don't believe it, but the Dudleys say sometimes that they are the greatest tag team of all time?
Are they? Okay. Let me sum this up. I got nothing against Stevie or Bubba and Devon, great guys, right? Love them. They were good back in ECW in the early years, right? I'm going to say this. But here's the bottom line. You can say you're the greatest when you've won the WWE Championship so many times, or the TNA Championships. But come in my shoes where you've won 14 different world championships. Now I'm talking Australia, Mexico, 6 different Japanese company belts. All, AWA, NWA, WCW, WWF, WWE. Right there you got 12 championships. And not only you're going down to Portland, working with Don Owens, winning those Portland titles, and then going to Mexico City, winning the Mexican belts with Kenshi Sasaki. I've been a part of 14 different belts. Even Hawk and I have been at least 10 or 12 titles, different titles. The only team ever to take the international belts out of Japan and defend them against the AWA, NWA, AWA, and not WWF, but those titles and the WCW titles, and made the international belts famous. They ain't done that. I'm not against the Dudleys,
right,
but
just for people that
let's be real. And let's be real to all the fans out there. You gotta be real when it's time to be real, and be honest. Listen, Hulk Hogan was the greatest single thing that ever happened in this wrestling business, and I'll be the first one to say it. When something's true, you gotta say it. The best entertainer ever to come out of this business is The Rock. #1 best entertaining guy ever, has set the wrestling standard that nobody will ever match. The guy did like $170 million profit this year. No wrestler will ever do that ever in movies. I'm the first one to say it. So when the Dudleys come out here and say that kind of crap, they need to really think about it before they open up their mouth and say, okay, did we really do anything that was better than the Road Warriors? The answer is simple, no. Plain and simple. Are they great? Yeah, they're great. But they're not the Road Warriors. They're not going to go down in history as a legendary status.
If there could be a second team in your opinion, who would be your favorite tag team to have watched, for instance, throughout the years? Would the Steiners be up there?
Steiners are right up there. Yeah. Steiners are up there.
Who also are?
There's a lot of really not rated well tag teams, okay? The Horsemen, phenomenal. Tony Blanchard, Arn Anderson, 2 great. They helped Hawk on IL, crazy. Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, so underrated as far as tag teams go. Like, bro, you remember at the end of the first Cold War, when they put Ivan and Nikita Koloff against Hawk and I in the Great American Bash, and we both were heels, it turned us Red, white, and blue USA. Came out with the American flag on a motorcycle. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The Russians against the American badasses turned us stone cold babyface. Good guys. And from then on, we never looked back. There were some great teams. Crusher Khrushchev by Barry Darso, who smashed, was Crusher Khrushchev and Nikita Koloff. Two big Russian boys that we fought. The Hart Foundation. Come on. We wrestled some monster teams, the Briscoes, the Funks. The Funks let us beat us up all over Japan, which helped us in Japan. So, I think we're going to go down in history. There's a lot of great teams, but I think the Steiners probably have got to be the top of that tier.
And you just mentioned Terry Funk. He's worked with us a few times. What do you think of Terry Funk? Probably
one of the greatest human beings on this planet. Never's got a bad thing to say about anybody. Did a lot of tours with him. Busted down his door in Tokyo one night.
How do you do that?
Well, Ric Flair and Hawk and I got around drinking with a guy named Wally Yamaguchi. Wally was all Japanese but went to American college over in Japan. We were out doing some special occasion or something, and then Flair goes, we were staying at the Prince Hotel by Shinagawa Station. I'll never forget it. And the Japanese doors had these big, thick steel doors, man. They were brutally hard. And we all said, where's Funk? And Flair goes, Animal. Here's Funk's room right here. And we're knocking on the door, and Funky's not answering. And we're all drunk. And Flair goes, Animal, 3-point stance. So I get down to 3-point stance, and Flair goes, Hut. I knocked that door off the hinges. There's Terry Funk laying there, buck-ass naked, passed out, with ice wrapped around both knees, because he's, God damn you, Animal! What are you doing, you crazy son of a bitch? You guys are all nuts! Because Terry was on the end of his tour, and Hawk and I were just coming in, and it was like our third night, and we just passed by in the night, it was... Terry Funk's good people, man.
And is there any team that you see out there today that you think, obviously tag team wrestling is nowhere near what it used to be, but is there any team that you see out there in today's world?
I tell you what's entertaining, but they flirt going over the top a little bit, is New Day. New Day is great, but they flirt the line of being a little bit corny sometimes, and they got to really watch that. But because they wrestle good, all three of them can wrestle phenomenal. I thought, was it American Alpha? The shooter guy looks really good. I think they could have a decent team. I don't like the guys with the handlebar mustaches. Can't stand them. That gimmick is so 1930s, who cares? There ain't a single person alive that can remember that look. You know what I mean? That's from my great-grandmother's era. So that doesn't make any sense to me. I actually don't mind was the big cast, the guys that do the New York gimmick. They're kind of funny. They got to really learn how to wrestle first. Everybody asked me about the new guys that Paul Ellering's with. They're with a great teacher, that's all I'm going to say. They got a lot of polishing up to do before they can even think about getting to the WWE, and the WWE knows that. That's why they're not there. And the Ascension. The Ascension needs to do, quit trying to be the Road Warriors. You're never going to be the Road Warriors. No way, shape, form, or how, build, action, wrestling, nothing to be the Road Warriors. Let it alone. Let it alone, let it alone, let it alone. That's my advice for them. Just leave it alone. Because if they were doing the gimmick, I wouldn't try to copy them. So I don't care what the office would say. I said, listen, man, that ain't right. The Road Warriors are in a league of their own. Why do we keep talking about them? You know what I mean? They need to let it go.
And I'm just going to brush on this quickly. They now have this new show for 205-pound weight classes. They have a European champion that looks like a midget almost. What do you think of this new thing that they're going towards where it's smaller guys?
Well, I think they're doing that because they're doing a lot more stuff in the UK. I think the UK attendance is way better than the US from what I hear. I got a lot of buddies. I go over to the UK a lot, so I hear about it all the time. A lot of time it's not believable that the littler guys that are under 200 pounds can even beat the big guys. And it's not. There's very few Daniel Bryans in this world. He was a freak in our business. Very few Rey Mysterios in this world. You know what I mean? That people can believe in. But you got to be able to perform to believe in it. You know? So I think it's a good class for the guys, small guys, to learn to do things. We'll see how it goes. It may last for a while. It may just be a short-term thing.
And you're involved in a company with Shane Douglas now. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, man. And there's a new company getting ready to start. You know, Shane Douglas has been working on this for 4 years with a gentleman named Bill Townsend. The company's going to be called Revolution out of Las Vegas. And all I got to say, man, is people stay tuned. Because once we get rocking and rolling with it, there's going to be some great, there's a lot of great wrestling talent out there. There's a lot of great former WWE guys who are disgruntled. There's a lot of former TNA people that want jobs. There's a lot of people wrestling present now that are going to break their contracts so they want to go there. You know, it's going to revolutionize the wrestling business. Creative Wrestling Revolution's the name, but it's Revolution Sports Inc. is the company. And the company's not just wrestling. It's Muay Thai, it's a boxing, it's a lot of things. It's creative, it's the out-of-the-box sports. You know, so it's going to be good, man. It's going to be a really good program.
And you just mentioned TNA briefly. Could you just go over briefly your time there and what you think of the new ownership now and Jeff Jarrett?
Well, you know, man, I like to be in front of the new ownership because I think the new ownership needs help. And I like Jeff Jarrett a lot. He's a good friend of mine. But another company, you got guys like me sitting around that got 34 years of knowledge in the wrestling business. Hello? Quit bringing in the guys that got 60 years of schooling because they're outdated. They don't know. But someone like me whose gimmick is still popular with the young crowd today, let me get in there and help the guys. You know what I mean? Not that I would want to or would go. I would entertain the situation. But my dedication right now is Shane Douglas and Revolution, right? But I would hear those guys out. I think they're dumb for not asking guys like me, not asking guys like Shane, not asking guys like, you know, Shane's a former world champion too, ECW world champ, right? What their opinion is to come in there and help. They need help. It ain't the guys in there wrestling, they need help. Right. You need a face. Why would you not take one half of the greatest tag team ever and put them on TV to be a guest commentator or to help somehow to get the face out there? It's merchandise, it's business, it's creating interest.
Yeah. And Jarrett already was in control of the company at one point.
Yeah, that didn't work. Jeff's a great guy, great mind. I like Jeff Jarrett a lot. I don't know where it's going to go from here. I don't know if Jeff's running it. I don't know what's going on. But I wish him luck, man. This business needs 3 to 4 major companies. And I hope it gets there. And I like to help it get there somehow.
And for people that don't know, your son's a massive football star now. Do you want to just go over his career a bit?
Well, you know, James had a great career at Ohio State. He was a 3-time first-team All-American. I think he's either the only one or Hopalong Cassidy was the other one at Ohio State. And he had 7 good years with the Rams and broke Merlin Olsen's all-time Ram tackling record, which took Merlin Olsen 15 years to do. James did it in 7 years. And then went to the Saints, battled a couple injuries, and then this year just decided to retire. Played 8 years in the league. It's a lot of years in the NFL for middle linebacker because you're getting the snot kicked out of you by 350-pound linemen every play. That year, most linebackers last 3 years. He lasted 8 because he's a smart player. And, you know, he's doing well, man. He's got a good family. He just had a baby. Yes, you know, last Friday. You know, Hayden, my new granddaughter. So he's got a daughter, London, his wife, Shelley. And he's living in Nashville, Tennessee. Really good friends with Kirk Herbstreit. I think he's going to go into ESPNU and do the announcing deal, but you never know. I think he's going to coach someday. He's either going to do announcing or coaching.
So you can't see him getting into wrestling at this point?
You know, financially he doesn't need wrestling. You know, he's financially independent and will be for the rest of his life. So he's got enough money where his kids have plenty of money. You know, so that way he's blessed in that fact, and he's got rewarded that way, but he's a hard-working kid. If you ever wanted to, I would give him my honest advice about it, and help him out.
And for people that want to stay up to date with you, what social media do you have?
I got my Twitter, RW Animal. Then I have my Facebook is Joseph Michael Laurinaitis, my real name, because there's a lot of imposter. I'm the real road animal, and that's fake. It's not me at all. It just says Joseph Michael Laurinaitis. They can contact me there, private message me for bookings. I do speaking appearances at high schools. I do colleges. I'll do sports banquets. I'll do birthdays. I go around speaking and signing autographs. I even do speaking at churches on Sunday. I'm not afraid to say I'm a Christian, but I'm a realist Christian. I'm not a Bible banger guy. I think God uses people in different ways all the way around. So I do stuff like that, man. And listen, I go to speak at prisons. Tell people, you got two paths. You got pathway A or pathway B. I've been down this one. Go this one. It's a lot easier on your life. And I try to elaborate that the true heroes in life when I go to speak are your policemen, are your firemen, are your mom and dad, are your school teacher. I'm just an entertainer. I'm a sports figure. But I think sports figures do have a responsibility to the public, and that's what I try to portray.
And do you have any message you want to give to your fans that are going to watch this for the past hour or so?
Hey man, come on out wherever you see me. Wherever I'm doing an appearance, come on out and see one half of the greatest tag team of all time. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this appearance stuff because I got brand new shoulder pads. You come out and see me, you get to put my pads on and be a member of the LOD for 5-10 minutes. And Hawk and I were untouchable for so many years. This is my way of giving back to the fan. So I'm happy to see everybody. I'm happy to say hello. I do autographs every weekend somewhere around this world, man. And I'm traveling I gotta go to Qatar, I think it's called, Qatar, over by Saudi Arabia. I gotta go there. I go to the UK. We're getting ready to do business in China. I just got back from Japan, so I'm all over the place, man. So come see me. It'll be a good experience for you, man. Good Christmas card. Ho, ho, ho.
Well, we really appreciate you doing this interview, and to finish off, could you give us What a Rush?
Yeah, man, you know what's going to be at the end of the day when you see one of the Road Warriors, and in the words of Hawk, it's going to be,